Okay, I'll sit here. Oh, Davey's sitting here then. Oh, there's Davey there. I'll sit here then. You sit there, too.
Right at the back?
Oh, well, I'll sit at the back.
That's alright.
I'll sit. Make the scarf.
Yeah.
Robert sometimes using it to extravagantly.
I think it's just after me. Yeah, it's just no photograph. I didn't know.
The printed on it?
Just really.
Carlo, you have to go to the interpreter for me. Okay? There's the English people here and Italian people and everybody. What's going on? I don't know what's going on.
Do you know what? I like that. And I was calling people to a chain or a bunker and everything.
You take minutes.
What's she doing?
You're not a bit outside.
No, let's get it done so we can get back outside to work. We're all here.
We're not all here.
Are we? She is,
I brought some of them.
All the sensible ones are outside.
Yeah.
Just do a minute. Started.
What, you want me to sit inside?
Carol.
What about Archie, you see? I'm just wondering if there's somebody to know.
Archie.
Archie is one way somewhere. There's still 2 or 3 seats in here, so you might come in and sleep.
Pat's here, so just we'll wait till Archie comes in. He'll not be long, will he?
No, he's away to get petrol for the lawnmowers.
Was the way out? I didn't realise that.
Too good a day to waste any time. I think they're... Is that, who's that? Davey? Darren?
You just get started then? Right. Okay, welcome everyone. First meeting of the year. Our last meeting was at the AGM, and just looking at some of the notes and things from there and previous meetings, just to try and acquaint myself what we were supposed to have been doing over the last while. Rules. Does everyone have the up-to-date set of rules for the what? The MD here not got them?
That was the ones we got at the last meeting.
How up to date are they? What's the date of the up to date ones?
Well, the ones we gave out at the last AGM.
Well, Scott got them, yeah.
Hey, do Chas.
There's still seats now.
Okay, right. We'll start with money. Right.
Well, I have got...
Do you want me to do it? Because I've got
Right.
a note also, that keeps us all right with that. Okay, we'll still get a few events still to come in, obviously, but total, hang on to get my glasses out, guys. Sorry for this. 2 seconds. Got it all here. Right. Okay. In total, we have at the moment in the bank, because most of it, as you know, is cash, but obviously people that have paid cheques. At the bank balance at the moment is £315.52. The direct debit for the water rates is £23 a month still. It's gone down and it's stayed at that. So that comes off by direct debit. We've paid Scottish Allotment and Gardens £55 cheque, And just for everybody's information, that covers us for public liability if we're members, and it's £1 a member that we pay.
Right.
So that's been paid for this year, and in the petty cash we have £205.20. So the total we have as a balance of cash is £1,215.52 at today's date. Now, bearing in mind that there's a lot of people now that were the people that were members that had loans that are now having it deducted from the rent.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a list here of all the rents that have been paid today. Anything else you want to ask me on that side? One thing I'd like to ask is, should we just now start banking the cash money that's paid? Because currently we've just been banking the cheques. So are we all happy to have the money put into the bank now?
I would assume that would have been done automatically anyway.
In the Bellahouston's name.
Should it not been paid
Yeah,
into
we
the
do
bank all
that.
the time?
Yeah.
But should the cash now get paid into the bank? That's what I'm asking.
Of course.
Yes, yeah.
Right, because remember that was something that we didn't want to do in the past.
Never heard of that.
Is there a reason? Because you want to float or something?
Well,
The reason was, if you try to remember, was we didn't want to have any money into the bank because if we had any carry on with John McDonald and that, if we had to go to a lawyer, they would want to know if we had money in the bank. So we couldn't. Plus people who want their money back, loan, want it in cash quite a lot.
Well, we'll just pay it to them then.
But if it's in the bank,
It's in the bank.
is there a problem getting it back out the bank?
No, not at all.
Not at
all.
So it should be in the bank in the interim, should it? It should be banked until we need it.
And get the picks of interest in it.
Well, what we're hoping to do now is to start building in that, because if everybody's happy to keep getting the rents deducted, it's a matter of building up the bank account then, for whatever we need.
So do you have a list of who has not paid, which is more important?
Yeah.
Right. Well, I would like to know that because I'm fed up wandering around this place seeing people who have obviously
Right.
just doing nothing in
I
their
understand
plots.
that, Alan. The other thing I was going to, just while we're bringing this up, everybody know, can we set a date today for the AGM, and people that want to pay by cheque can pay a post-dated cheque if they want, because I don't really want to be phoning around again next year looking for payments from people, and it's harder over the winter because over the winter not everybody's down all the time.
Right.
So if we could make a note that if anybody wants to pay by cheque, fine, post-date it for the date of the AGM, or give it to me before the AGM, or on the day of the AGM.
First Sunday in
And
October.
if anybody wants to
you
pay up
have-
their money, first Sunday in October we go for
I
it.
don't work
Yeah,
out what day
no.
that is, but
And if everybody's kind of clear on that, and also for people that want to pay up, start paying up before, it's quite easy to do that.
right.
Because obviously during the summer a lot of us here. The other thing is I'd like to suggest that all members of the committee get a receipt book so that anybody can pay a member of the committee.
Right.
And that would also help.
Well, put it this way, I mean, if it's supposed to be paid before or on the AGM, there shouldn't be any problem.
No, it shouldn't.
No, that's
I mean,
no.
I thought we were getting them in a month.
That was it, I know, and now it's now,
Well, why are we
month
talking
in the road.
about that?
Aye, exactly.
Have we got many, Carol?
And that would solve it. Not too many, no. There's just obviously people with balances outstanding as well. So will I just run down? Okay, look, the blanks are June, Conway at the moment. Now, I've got blanks obviously with the rent deducted people. John Gardner, George Kerr, and Gillian Joyce, and obviously the Haggertys haven't been seen, but they've got loans, so that's obviously maybe something we're going to discuss today between all the members. Ida's still got a balance, or Ida and Elford have still got a balance. They've paid £20 so far, but they are paying it up. So, and just one of the new people, Tam McKenna, who's just started last week, so he's paid for a fee.
Right.
I've got a
We could maybe
question for the
mention to
Hangman
about the
committee.
new people as
See the
well.
money that's in the bank, how many people is going to get paid off that?
We usually pay about 4.
4.
Well,
So can I ask how many people have still to be paid?
13.
13. It was 13 and a half last year.
No,
Exactly,
I
well
have
that was
not
the
paid
end of
anything
the
this
AGM, so we haven't paid anybody since
Was
then
it?
obviously.
Are we still 13?
but I thought it was agreed at the AGM that all the current members are happy to have their loan deducted.
No, I'm not, because...
Alright, you want your money back?
If you're taking 240, right, how many years is you going to pay the rent off that? It's going to take 7 or 8 years. You might not be here 7 or 8 years.
Right, well Pat, that's fine, that's what we said. If you want your money, you can have it.
Well, I'll take my money out.
Right, well you can have it today if you want.
Take it today, eh?
Right, okay, there you go. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah, so we got that was what our agreement was though.
If anybody didn't
You know,
want
there
it,
was
they could
people
come
who wanted
forward.
it just paid off their rent. Actually, I don't like the idea of it being paid off their rents because people from that point of view then just seem to think they can do what they like with their plot and we can't touch them.
That shouldn't exclude you for the rules of the plot.
No, I know, and that's why I want to bring this up. But there are people who just seem to think that because they get their money paid and it's off some loan somewhere, that they can just do as they want.
Well, if you feel that, Alan, then you could maybe pay the people what they're
Well,
owing, and then you have that.
I think that's where we have to face
It's only an option, that's all.
I want
I just agreed to that because it was easier for everybody concerned. I don't particularly care. But it doesn't matter to me one way or another. If you want to give me one or
that's what we had agreed
That's
during last year. I can't remember
That's
if it was exactly at the AGM. I think it was at the AGM, wasn't it?
It was the AGM.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
agreed
it.
if somebody didn't pay their plot, basically they were going to be out.
Oh, well, that's the rules.
That's it.
That's the rules.
If somebody doesn't pay their plot and you're going to pay them out, and say, just a minute, you owe me £240.
Well,
So it'd be better to give them the £240 and right, start paying your bill then. Wouldn't it? Anybody else? I don't know if anybody's taken that approach or that idea. I don't
Well,
know.
Pat's the only one that's actually asked us for his money back.
Right.
But we might have issues with trying to get the problem areas addressed to give them their money back this year as well. So, would that be right?
How many would be owed money and also be a problem? How many are we talking about?
Well, there's the 2 Haggerty boys and
Is that one plot or 2 plots?
Two plots.
2 plots.
Okay, how
So
many?
that's two loads.
2. How many others?
And I think we're going to address who
Well,
else is
basically,
addressing today.
I mean,
actually,
roughly, so we got an idea of how many.
Charlie, he's got 2.5 plots, which he very self is not
That's
really
right,
working,
and
he's
not
got
working
it
on
deducted
anything,
from the money that
He's owed.
basically is owed. Which means that it's the same. That's the scenario you're talking about. He's been asked several times to pick one of the plots that he can't work, like the back one, and he's categorically.
Well, it's not his decision, that's the point.
Exactly.
It's not his decision. In fact, that was one of the things I was reading, right, at our last AGM, right, the meeting just before it, right, here we are. Charlie keeping 38B and 39, giving up plot 40, and the 38B and 39 were to be worked. And that was before the AGM, and so that would have been, I think that was just a quick meeting we had a couple of weeks before the AGM. And so that was September, and here we are in April, and there's not a single thing done to these plots. There's an area about the size of this table has been dug over in the bottom plot, 2 of them that size, and that is it.
A few of them like that and all, just that
It's not been dug over, it's not been turned over. They created a big mound of rubbish, and it's still a big mound of rubbish.
Right, well, do we don't want to address that just now and just...
Well, that's, I do. I think these were the 4 plots, shall we say, that I want to sort out because it's just...
See this idea of putting carpets and all in the plots?
Excuse me, we're still on this, Archie.
Right.
Okay, so we're talking about 4.5 plots here, aren't we? 2.5 and 2 for the Haggertys, yeah? And then they need paying, but they're not working them or whatever.
Well,
they've got balance outstanding. Okay. We talked about 13 outstanding in total. That leaves what, another 9 or so, does it? Another 9.
Plot members.
Is there issues with those other 9 as well? Are there other?
No.
Those other 9 are being
obviously
worked.
Pat's come forward saying
No, I think they're
money back.
all okay.
Yeah.
Archie and I walked round the plots this morning. I had to go round.
Well, and Pat makes 5 if Pat's to be paid back. So in that case, I mean, we surely got enough funds to clear more or less clear the 5, haven't we? And
Yeah,
then we can
how
deal
do you
with
want
those
to go
issues.
about this? And
That's how I would like it
Charlie
done.
and just
Yeah.
give him it back and then...
Yeah, because his won't be a full one, because for 2 years now he's been...
That's right,
He's
He's
had his rent off his for a couple of years
that's
now,
right.
so his will be
That's
under
right.
200, I would think, for each plot.
yeah.
Even if it works out 200, it's
Well,
£1,000, is
you
it?
work
But
out
that's-
exactly. It's 75 for this year, and
Right.
last year he did
Right.
1250, so it's 50. So that's 125 of what? Of
Yeah.
2 plots.
Yeah, well, that's nothing really, is it?
No.
To get them to deal with the issues, get them out of the way.
So it's a small balance really if Charlie's given up one of the plots.
Yeah. Well, I don't think he has the option. It's not his choice to
I know
what
that
he's doing.
Janet spoke to him
decision, it has to get
independently, and I spoke to him independently. I don't think you've had the chance
No, I
to
haven't
speak to him
seen
yet,
him.
Alan, right? But and we did ask him, and he's come back with the fact that he doesn't want to he's put too much work into the buildings that are on it.
Aye.
So I think we just have to
It
cross
doesn't,
his hands
that
and
doesn't
say,
matter, does it?
no.
It doesn't matter. We're all in the same boat when you build on your plot. If you
That's
don't work
right.
it, it
So we
doesn't-
just have
doesn't
to all make a decision, agree that that's the case now.
Well, can we have maybe a show of hands?
Uh-huh,
So we're all
yeah.
together in it. Are we happy enough with the idea that we're going to work with the idea that we're going to pay off the Haggerty one so we can deal with that issue, those 2.5, and Pat's going to get his money. Is everyone happy with that
Can I
idea?
just ask how exactly
So
we're
we know where
going
we
to
are.
do the Haggerty's one? Who's going to do it? And
Oh,
how we're
Well,
gonna do it?
okay, they're owed a sum of money. Okay, whether or not they agree to accept the sum of money, we can put it aside and they can be issued a cheque or whatever. But as a principle, we're going to be paying them and then saying, you know,
There's not a problem here because that plot belonged to the guy's wife. It's no Haggerty itself.
Doesn't matter whose it is, they're ours. They're not,
No,
they're not anybody's plots, that's the
Right.
point,
Who are we
they're
gonna
the
pay the money?
association plots.
But who are we
That's
going to
the
pay the money
people's,
to?
His wife.
Thinking.
His wife.
doesn't matter who
Check
it,
to the wife.
I like it with matter because
Well, in that
the wife
respect, yeah.
gets it. The
yeah,
wife gets nothing in it.
right, okay.
So I think the wife should get
Next
the
the
money.
grand should get it.
Right, well, take
Same
my foot
as
down.
Angusina, John McInnes's wife. She's wanting her money now. So there we go, there's people that's left, that's died, and they want their money back. I mean, where do we get the money from if we've only got this amount?
no, well, how many, we said we've got 13 in total, we're dealing with those, we can promise to pay her in October, can't we? When we get the next lot of money and she can be first in the next line, can't
Yeah.
And then there's Jim
And then you
McDonald,
can
he's
say
got
clearly,
it.
okay, well if we know who's going to be paid in October, we know what's going to be happening with the next lot of money
fine.
and the amount of it. I mean, we can make promises then, say, you know, in October we're paying 5 off, these are the 5 that are going to be paid and you'll be paid in October. We could do that, could we?
I think that's the best way.
But we could actually say to them, and that may make sense.
That's if everybody comes across with their money.
Well,
Well, if they don't, they're out.
They're out.
And we get somebody in that's paying, that's the thing. You don't worry about that. I think that's been half the battle. People have just turned up, paid money and then disappeared for a year and then turned up again and then that's, you know, and they just,
Well,
you know.
we got plenty of time.
people
We've got plenty of time before October to get procedures in place where everyone's going to be
Well, I am.
paying October.
That
We've got 5
tried that
meetings.
last
before
year,
it.
One thing I would,
Everybody should pay up front anyway before
Aye,
the day.
aye.
It's a lot easier if
It's
you just
rules that you
if we
went
gave
to
it with
an
your paying
AGM.
slip, no walked into the bank and
I think
I'm getting bored with doing it.
AGM, and there was a note up there in front saying MD wishing to pay beforehand was quite realistic, no, pay it up.
Can I say, I think that's a really good idea. For those of us who want to pay the money straight into the bank account, give them a paying slip, you know. Yeah.
If you want to get them dribble and dabs, you can't.
well,
But it's easier then for like, all you need to do is just take somebody off. I mean, it saves the kind of everybody knows they're making the dates due.
When you take on
It's very easy, if all the money paid in one day, it goes paid into the bank. But for anybody that can't manage, I'll give them a pay slip, no problem, that's
it's a lot of
no
money. If you only get rid of dribble and dabs,
But it's
how much
keeping a
stuff
track
to
as
do
well.
that?
I think that paying slip.
right.
It could be just sit on the account, you just take it off.
Can I
You name
also,
the person.
can I also say, right, I think we've decided what we'll do there. The bank account thing we'll think about for another time maybe, but I think that's probably a good idea to think about that. People that can, we don't have to maybe as a bit of
No.
so we can pay in. But the other thing is, just to remind people, if you want something to be raised at the AGM to change the rules, right? It's got to be presented at some point before the AGM, right? You know, so that you cannot just turn up at AGMs and say, I want this done, and we vote on it. These will be presented, say, I would think, August, to give people 2 months. And then
when is the AGM in October?
October. And that has caused problems because people don't turn up, and then turn up at the AGM and then want things done, having not given anybody any notice to think about it, you know. You're supposed to have them proposed and seconded. And that we had to spend a lot of time getting these rules sorted out because we did change a few of them to suit. No, the basic ones about growing and stuff like that are general through all allotments. But other bits and pieces are a wee bit different for different allotments. So some of these rules, you know, just had a slight change.
Basically the rules of the plots and you keep the bloody place tidy when you grow it.
Are we getting back to the show of hands that we're just about today? Because we're drifting off that.
Right, so this is for paying off these ones early. Right, the ones we talked about there. That's Charlie's and the Heaney's, the Haggerty, and Pat. Right.
So that is fine.
So right, let's have a show of hands up. 4. Okay, well that is a very strong majority. So we'll just right.
So that's likely to leave 8 outstanding, is that right, Carol, roughly? We had started with 13 outstanding, not got 5.
You should just pay off your debts, that's surely the wisest thing to do, irrespective of where the money came from.
But it's time to get the money in. When you get them done, that's a hell of a hard thing.
No, what I'm saying, the money you've got.
I think
That was in 8? 9, 8?
Yes. 8, is that right? 8 outstanding.
it's either going to be 8 or 9. I'm not sure if we counted one of them from last year as we were going to do that or not.
It's 8 people paying the rent to pay off one man. His money back. So if you only get that there and dribble and grabs, you're going to have a hell of a struggle trying to get them done.
Yeah, we just do that. Because people are
not
making a big issue. I mean, 3 years ago we had 30 odd people to pay off.
Yeah, you've got to just...
So,
brilliant. Does that mean
we've been paying off 5 or 6 years for the last
2 years,
3 or 4 years. So.
I think it would be helpful if maybe a notice was put up in the wall and saying who's been paid off, just for general, for people's interest, just to know what's happening.
I think that would be a good idea.
Rather than just hearsay, stick a notice up, these plots have been paid.
Excuse me, I was talking to a fellow last night, and we're told to watch every careful. I told you, didn't I? That was our funeral. He met MacDonald, who used to be here. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
John MacDonald. And you could tell him everything's going on down here. And he's taken up, he's got a note, he's holding the book, he's got a book with every kind of order and everything else on the meetings down here. And there's somebody here carrying stories back up to him.
Archie, forget about McDonald. I've had this
Well
for 10
done,
years
Pat.
now. McDonald, there's nothing to give it
I've always got nothing to do with this, but I'm only telling you, there's somebody carrying stories from here up to him.
What is he going to do there?
I know that. I know that's going to do that. I know he's not. I know that for a fact.
Radio, Bellahouston, you know.
Right.
But Fitz's idea that we have a list so we know exactly who these 8 people are, and it could be in here even, could it? Just
On the wall.
I think we should have it in here.
And it's a bit stable, people know what's going on in the plots.
and then everyone knows, and then there's none of this.
Instead of something up the ground and saying, oh, that's a lot, that's a old-fashioned action. Stick a notice up in the door.
We've had this for years, right? Who's been paid off? And we have to keep going back through, and then the week later, who's been paid off? We go back through the list again, and who's been, you know, and you go, wait a minute. Just people don't even know it's finished.
We never need it again. Once we've got a list, the 8 people that are left on there, and that's it, it's done.
I mean, the consultant next year, you change it once a year, that's it, is it not?
Yeah.
Can we have a vote for a list then?
On the wall.
Is that okay, Cal?
Yeah.
Can we do that? A list of the people that still has the 8 people. So we've got
Carol.
still outstanding.
Instead of people saying to you, you'd up and arguing or this Carol, just stick it up on the wall.
You can have them up even in order that they're going to get paid off. When it's right.
If we were doing this, I was going to say, we put a note up for the 5 that have been paid.
Not really to be funny. Why don't we just do it and everybody gets a copy of it?
Well, right, either way.
I don't really think we need to stick it up on the...
Alright, okay, we'll
save you doing copies for everybody, doesn't it? Just one piece of paper.
Just saves you
statement saying plot number such.
Who's going to be paid this year and who's still to be paid.
I don't think you could put an order because somebody might, like, come along and say, well, I want my money, so we don't know.
But if we were saying we were going to make the commitment to that woman who's going to be getting the money next, saying that we're sitting at the same meetings every time, who's still to get paid, who wants paid, who's dead and who's to get the money. And
I think that's just stops
so
that.
we've got a clear idea, a clear plan of who we're going to pay.
Because there's people who have been paid that I've never seen, and some others as well, because they left the plots before we joined, but they had paid money. So we've paid people we haven't, that we haven't actually seen.
But only people that came forward, darling. I mean,
I know that. Yeah. But we have
technically they paid, but we don't know who they are. We don't have addresses. Nobody seems to know who they are. It could come out of the woodwork, but it's highly unlikely.
Is that on top of these? Is that on top of these?
But we've pretty much agreed that they're not going to be part of the list. To be honest, David, legally, from a legal point of view, we don't need to pay these people back if they did come out the woodwork. But if they did, then it's our decision whether we pay them or not as a gesture of goodwill.
I think you would have to pay them. If they're showing a payment card that they paid,
but Pat,
that's a receipt.
Pat, not me be funny, but where are these people then? They don't exist.
That's not the point.
They would have come forward first.
The point is, if they've got a receipt that they paid £240 in here, it doesn't really matter. It's still legally binding by us to pay it back.
No, actually, after 6 years, it's not legal, but we probably would, as a gesture of goodwill.
Depends how many years left of pot,
if these people had wanted the money, they'd be here.
Anyway, that's speculation and there's no point. We can talk about that for another 100 years.
Very relevant.
So,
instead of people asking,
vote for the list. I think the best idea is just to put the list up in here, and then if anybody wants to come you can see it. It's another one, right? So who's for that?
Yeah.
Right, I'm for that.
So, okay, all outstanding debtors on the list. That's great.
Abstain from all voting.
You're just sitting on the food, so
Just sitting.
Right. Archie and I had a wee wander around the plots as we did before the AGM, and apart from Charlie's and the 2 rubbish tips that are in the plots, we've even got ones up at the far end there are now being worked. Plots are, in my recollection, there's more plots being worked at the moment than there has been for a good number of years.
I left them potatoes in the day. The last man
I gave them potatoes this morning.
He's put them in the day.
But I was wondering, now where are we in this? See this one here?
I reckon we would do a plot after that.
There's trees sort of bounded up about here and that, right?
That's where your plot was.
And I think you could get that one used. I know there's rubbish on this bit here.
This is the one where the trees are actually, number 12 there. Number 11. No, 11's Yeah, next to me is the area where the trees and that are. That could be worked.
Yeah, I think so. Just, I don't know what, you can't call, I was going to call it 13, I realised.
What you're talking about.
Why don't we try and do small starter plots for people if they're really, really keen, get them in and give them like wee half plots?
Well, funnily enough, that was one of the things we'd been talking about doing that up at this area, but people have taken over whole plots up there and started. So what I was going to suggest is that one down there, we could transfer that idea down to that bit down there.
That's all
Yes.
But then it's all rubbish.
But what we could do is...
find this rubbish, he will old bone, somebody will die.
But what we could do is show anyone interested in coming over. Look, we've got this area of land, do you want to work it?
I mean,
then it's their decision. It doesn't matter. If they think they can work it...
up the top there,
exactly.
if you want to work that.
Someone may work it. There's land there that could be worked.
you know.
We know it's...
I mean, nobody used to go there, even the little road, you know, the one that goes to the end. I chop it down myself to open up. But in the summer, it's like a jungle. You know, the apple tree, I cut it last year, is it? So now it's all right. But the other one was in the floor, you know, I pull it up.
It was obviously a big step of greenhouse.
I mean, nobody cares, you know. I clean it up myself a little bit. But there, the other bit, it's all a pile of rubbish. I went there. I even find, you know, a clock, a German clock, probably somebody will jump in. Rubbish, but it's full of rubbish, you can't deal with it.
The thing is, we can ask people that are struggling with the plots that they would like to share.
It was meant to be used for organic stuff, and people were throwing old books, bottles, you name it, all the half of the day, so that's how we had to stop it.
Even along the thing, I clean it up a lot of stuff, all bottle, you know what I mean?
We had to stop it.
The other, last week, 2 weeks ago, I saw a big hole over there, so I had to put something there, put, you know, glasses and then an old wheelbarrow and all the rest of it, just to close the hole.
You're a little better than myself.
There's actually a path all the way around these plots, and for most of it, you can't even see.
And at the end, the one is a rotten tree which bent down everywhere, you know, so one day when you are ready, go there, try to get rid of the tree and put a support. That's where they jump in, you say the boy and all the rest, whatever, you know.
But we could still see...
Once a month when everybody's here, we can do a tour around, and then have to close the hole or reinforce the thing, you know, because one by himself, he can't do it, you know.
Well, it wouldn't be up to the person coming on to reinforce the outer perimeter fence, but someone could be shown that bit of land and said, do you want to take this on? It's a bit of a mess, hasn't been worked for a long time, what do you think? The onus could be put on them to see if they wanted to work that land.
Last week with
if someone wants to clean it up, someone might like the project, someone might like the work.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's been proved, because there's still already been work.
Exactly. So there's no reason why we couldn't show someone that bit of land and open it up.
We've done that with that one. That was a nice one at one point, and then that young guy took it on.
But I think most of them were when most of it
well, that is
came
it, because
down,
what happens is when people decide to give up their plots, is that long? It's a mess anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, before all the plots then, all the plots, it was just all glass and rubbish, and all of them were all the same. It's just that gradually they've got better and better.
Well, I think that's
That's the most thing, it was the carpets. It only cost £4 that using all the stuff, which is not much.
No, but the fence at the end, what I'm saying, one week of time, once a month to jump in, you need 2-3 men there to cut the tree and put a support, because the tree is pulling down. Somebody jump in top. Some of them I cut the few branches which are very easy to jump in top and then jump in. I cut them, you know, but...
That's the tree on the other side of the fence.
Yeah.
Well, that's the southern side.
He bend over here, you know.
That's the southern side of the fence.
Right. The idea of opening up that far bottom area, how many people try that?
Well, offer it and see.
We don't lose anything.
Have you got a waiting list of people waiting for plots?
Yes.
Well, why don't you approach some of them and ask them?
Can they be told, Jan, that we've got an area, it's a bit rough, it hasn't been worked for a long while, it's a mess, would you be interested? It's a project. And someone may want to come down and say, yes, you know what, we'll be
try already there to clean up a bit the top of it. No?
See that one there?
You need a young man, strong one, and probably 6 or 7 months or a year.
That's what
Getting up a bit like this. It's a mountain, you know, of rubbish, you know. Where you gonna then, what you gonna do? You know, just put your name there. When you die, they just put you there with a bit of soil on top. And that's you done, is it?
Don't you do whatever, behind you, not put your big soil on the wall.
So we're going to offer out number 12 here.
But I don't know what we'll call it. How will we number?
Well, I've left the number 12. That's what we're talking about.
Well, hold on, we need to, wait a minute, it's number 12 there, it's number 12 we're talking about?
Yeah.
What we said Tuesday then? Right, no problem, it's already there, it's number 12 anyway.
That can be,
So that is going to be...
How many plots have we got?
He's joined that, we are.
Basically that was always one, you know what I mean?
Right.
How many plots have actually got?
What one are you?
It's
What one are
12
we
we're
going
talking
to?
about.
Number 12.
This is
Around
number 12. Yes.
That's to become a
But
new
64.
plot area.
64.
Well, actually,
Sorry, no, no, no.
64.
64 Tam McKenna.
Couple of bits are unworked.
aye.
Alan.
Into the 60s then.
Alan, Tam McKenna is now 64 because we've had to shift all the top ones to work it out. I'll show David how we've done it. So for the purpose of paperwork. David, if you don't mind, that's all right. So that's going to be new plot opens up, new or plots.
And then they work out,
And what would
because
the
Anne's taking on her 67, she's taking on the back one.
So are we making that two plots, Alan?
Yeah, no.
Are we making that two
Well, I
half
haven't
plots?
voted yet, but I think we should try that. We've got nothing to lose by trying that, I don't think. It's just one thing we can...
We've got an area of land there that's potentially 2 plots, 12 and 13, potentially, that people could be shown to see if they're interested in working any of that land. And with nothing to lose.
And if they're keen enough, they'll take it on,
Aye,
and then
exactly.
when a plot comes up, as they do,
They can move on to a better one.
To the next one.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, right, well we'll vote for that then, right?
Okay.
So, in favour of trying that?
Yeah.
Right, so we're going to call it 13 now, right?
12 and 13.
12 and 13.
One plot's the most bad as was at the top. Workable.
Right. You got anything? No, you got anything else? Right, anybody anything to want to raise?
Do you have any feedback about the thieving that's happened, the break-in that happened by our allotment? Do you have an update about that? Because do you not know anything about that?
I just heard something about...
Do any of you know about that? So there was someone on the plot broke into that.
Well, someone broke in. Someone broke in.
And it's alleged it's somebody on this plot that.
Oh, that happens quite a lot.
But they broke into that.
How do we know it's somebody?
They're saying that they came in from the plots.
The container was broken to two, but nothing to do with the
But anything
container.
can come in from outside. We've been here when people have been in from outside. So how does it become a plot member that did it?
Well,
She was a plot member.
no, someone's gone in from the
They came
outside.
from the inside. They came from the inside of the plot, and they broke in via
And in the process they broke into our
our plot as well.
Right.
plot.
Is anything
Well,
taken to
nothing
us?
was taken from ours except the big old bit of wood that when we first moved on we took out the communal store, that, a big old lump of wood was removed from our plot.
Right.
Taken over Alan's plot with our watering bucket down and stuff. You may have noticed a couple of days, Alan, that was down, and put next to it. And I guess they've used that then to ram in. So the point is, there's some sort of planning gone on whereby they've moved this lump of wood in order to use that as a
That's why it was alleged that it's somebody on the inside because they have access.
Well, the break-in has happened
Inside, there's somebody that
from
works inside
our
the
land
bakery.
into the bakery. That's all we know.
Right.
But was there any feedback from the police when they came? Do we know any more than that?
No,
Has anyone
that's
been?
all. Went up the wall and all that, and he says, well, they never come over the wall, because there's a kind of damp day, he says, there's no track, no gas, no plating down, the other that's at the key.
Yeah.
And they come and see me, and he says, there's somebody that knows the inside of the place. No, inside of the bakery. I said, I don't know any inside
They're
the
making
bakery.
out that somebody in the plot used to work in the bakery.
So I don't know. So they took a chair out of my, see that chair? They took a chair out of that chair of mine. They stood in that chair, took a board above the door off, got the hands down, they know how to get their hands in, got the hands down behind the iron door, got the hands in over the door, and took the board off, down, and pulled the snip of the iron door, and opened the iron door, and got the chair in, and went over the top of the wall, into the bakery, stole the keys, got back up the van keys, and away.
Right. So it's still vans?
They stole the two vans.
Right.
I don't think that's any concern to the law.
No, but it was done by the allotment though, it was done inside the allotment, the back door, that's why.
It was an inside job, and that was inside the bakery.
I've got a question. See the people that haven't working their plots, should be giving them a time fixed up.
Yes, so if I say that, but
and get them
that's
out
what I was going to
if
say,
if they're no interested.
I've just agreed to that part.
So what, for the people
We
that...
never agreed on a time,
No.
did we? No,
So basically a letter from today, 1 month to...
Clear.
clear the pots. Because they distinctly got the rules anyway when they get posted, don't they?
Well, that's how I get more copies, and I'm sending everybody a
It
copy.
tells you the work they're digging and all that.
Would that be done then, Janet? Can we, the people that are not working the plots will be told they've got 1 month? Yeah?
Yeah, basically.
You've got a wait list of people to come in then.
And
They go, some
sorry,
comes
could
in.
we say which plots are concerned? Have they been mentioned? Is there a point of mentioning them? Maybe, so we're all in the clear, that we know...
Well, basically what they should be done is the people in the committee and the top table should be going round to all the plots, making note of who hasn't worked
Who's
the
working and
plot,
who's not.
and then the letter gets sent to them, because speaking to them doesn't seem to be working. So
It just becomes personal.
well, that's
doesn't it?
it. I mean, I want send them a letter, and then it keeps us right. You know what I mean? Because there's no point in saying, oh, what your plot, and then they can turn around and say, well, you never said anything. So, send them a letter, get a copy of it, and that means that they know fine well what's happening.
I'll suggest that we take a walk round in 2 weeks' time. Because we took a walk round this morning, didn't we?
That's right.
And we looked at, I would say, about 10 plots that were not very great.
Very bad condition.
Well, in saying that, I was counting Charlie's 2 and I was counting Haggerty's 2 as well. So
Just to clarify with the Haggertys, have they just got a letter saying that for the members meeting they've been asked to leave the plots, come and pick up their stuff?
well, I was going to come to that. I would do that. I'll send that letter.
I would send a recorded delivery as well, because usually people say they haven't received.
Well,
Well,
but actually,
to be honest,
you're going to have a slight problem there, because probably aren't, they probably aren't, unless anything was different, aren't where
I
the
don't
last
address
known address
I've got,
was.
because I know they were
That's their
moving,
fault.
and I haven't seen Richard to get a new address off, but I do have
Oh, I seen
what's
that.
his name?
What was it?
Jim?
Jim's address.
They were there 3 days ago. And they were only carrying with
Just-
they were like conic and
you should just put them in
like rubbish in. Put it that way.
And that's another thing, if he brings in rubbish, and get...
Here's rubbish we're bringing in. We just buried it. We just took the pot and let them walk away.
The
That's
thing
all
at
it
the
does.
gate, this access to the plots, I mean, it's a hell of a bloody mess, isn't it? You know, just dumping anything at all there.
Yeah.
Well, people are putting stuff at the access to the plots, and mainly window frames, and they'll get broken, and I don't know who puts them there. But whoever they are, they don't
But
clean it up.
exactly, nobody admits to it.
I don't know who put them there.
I told the man
Can we stop a minute?
I've got my card
Stop.
out today, I'm going
We
to...
brought this up at the AGM because I wanted that. That was the one thing we said. We said if people are bringing heavy stuff in, right,
Take it out.
and it's in the AGM minutes, right. That was discussed at last October. We were going to let people put their name on it, and it had to be moved within a week. Because some of the stuff, sometimes it's pouring the rain, sometimes you're bringing heavy stuff in, right? But if it's not moved within a week, then it just became everybody's to use, and that was the way we were going to work it.
Aye, well that's fine, but that doesn't account for people leaving windows and nobody.
Well, aye.
Something got broken.
Well, what happened, there was wood left there from, I was up at
And
Christmas
slabs.
holidays and it was there.
That's
I
right.
came up in January, it was there. I
And there
came
were
up in
slabs
February and there were slabs.
Well, we
And
could use
I was
some
building stuff and I took away some bits
One of the
of the
biggest
broken
problems
slabs.
is everybody leaves the other person to do it. For nobody's committing themselves. I mean, it's okay, oh well, you're in the committee, you should be doing it. No, it's everybody's job to do it. And I'm personally getting sick of being the fall guy. How come you've not done that? What you've not done, you've not
Do we
done
have a
that?
place we can move that to? The stuff at the front. Where can we move it to? We was to get that clear. Where can
See that window?
Have you had any area
Well,
they could say that.
It's not good.
Yeah, but we go
Basically, what we should actually have is our pens,
No grass in it.
Yeah.
What good is there?
There is glass in
None of them
I mean, well, that one.
they can
Ah, but
collect
when you
it.
go and do
Rather
that,
than
we
wait
sort
in
to-
line and get the
Well,
slash.
take it one away.
We'll take it
Well,
then.
that's the best place round by the back of the container.
I would say so, because we're never ever going to get that bit.
Okay.
I'll end up with a program again. Everybody should
Bring
bring
stuff in, just to get
Yeah. But it's not there at the moment, it's got to be moved.
That's
isn't it?
got to be, if we wanted to bring a motor or something,
Aye.
whatever it was, we couldn't get it in.
Well, I think if you pinned that up in front of that door, then they wouldn't be able to exit. I suppose it's our fire door, is it?
Is it
That
just
why it's
rubbish
there?
that's there
That door?
today? We're talking
Right.
about
Yeah, rubbish there.
Right, so if
I'll get
pins the slabs up, nobody's
Well, I
going to
don't mind doing it today as well.
I'll get a table clear
Around the corner.
I think it's not that about not,
But
it's
it'll be a
not that
fire
bad,
door.
it's
It's
just
cement, no cement.
where the window frame's coming from and
Yeah.
nobody's
Well, at one
using them.
time, the windows, the most people were using for greenhouses.
I know,
But we're
but
not just saying that. We're not getting that far down the bottom. I must have, I'm not exaggerating, hundreds of frames of glass in the
oh,
ground.
I don't want the frame, I know.
behind it,
They'll be in-
Right.
I know, not been used
All right,
this
okay.
time, I know.
Oh, that's so. Right.
You're right.
You were in the Argus last night, you're from back.
Any other?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, basically, I got a letter from June, which wasn't very nice, and I want the committee to issue it. I don't want to be here when it's been dealt with. It was regarding non-payment of rent, screaming and bawling like a banshee. So basically, I'm not prepared to put up with that from MD.
I agree with that.
No, I'm not putting up with shouting and bawling for nothing.
And there was shouting and bawling back as well.
Well, and as for charging up, I've just had a slip disc, and I've been off since the week before Christmas up till I come up to the plots, and I can, in the plots where I've walking sticks, the 1st of March. I'd up before, but the 1st of March was basically the day that I could actually move properly. Your excuse were that nobody was here to pay the rent. No, I'm not the only person in here.
The opening day is the day for paying the rent.
The AGM, yes.
Yes.
Now, Stella knew about it because I spoke to Stella on the phone regarding her plot. So Stella's plot's got nothing to do with the issue. Now, it's the person that we asked regarding rent come up to pay after 8 months or £5 towards the rent.
That's too far gone.
Yeah. And Carol apparently said, no, I wasn't there. Says, well, we're getting it in dribs and drabs. And meanwhile, all I heard was somebody shouting and bawling, and I didn't hear Carol shouting and bawling, I heard June shouting and bawling like a banshee. And when Carol asked me to come up the path to see to it, June was dragging John with the scruff of the neck, come on, get away, get away, get away, and then proceeded to come down the road and start going like this to her head and her nose, and I thought,
Oh, hey, stop exaggerating! Stop exaggerating!
yes, and I thought, what a bunch of that is.
I know, right. The total absolutely lies and exaggeration. That's why I've got to remark to it.
No, no.
I'm sorry I have to raise my voice, but I have to remark to it lies like that.
Excuse me, can
Right,
I
June.
have my say here now,
Right,
please?
June can speak now, because there's a letter there for you.
Excuse me. This is what the letter was about. At the AGM, I approached Carol with Stella's rent money, and she says, no, see Janet. I went to Janet. Excuse me, would you let me have my say?
Don't interrupt, she's speaking.
Could I have my
Commission, see the letter right now, and then what we'll do
I'm
is
going to tell you what's in the letter right now. I approached you. I went to Janet and I says, I've got Stella's rent money. Oh, could you see, I'm sorry I can't remember your name, the chairperson. No, Stella will have to see me, she's not been working her plot. I says, but no, she has been working her plot because John has been bringing Michael and Stella to the plot, bagging up loads of rubbish. John has a problem of removing the rubbish, right? No, you insisted that Stella had to speak to you.
That's right.
Have you got I
Why
phone
weren't you
number
there?
just, and then
At
at
the
that
AGM?
point, at the point, could I finish? Could I finish what I'm saying, please? Could I finish what I'm saying, please?
Exactly.
Right? You wouldn't accept it. The AGM disintegrated into a half-dozen different conversations. That was it over. I was put in a very compromising situation. What was I supposed to do? Say to Stella, I've paid my rent money but I've not paid yours. Explain that one. I couldn't. So I decided to come to the next committee meeting. But when I came, there was no committee. Have I got witnesses here?
Yes.
Yes.
There was one meeting, we met once in November when Carol was here, and there's been no meeting since.
There's been no meetings, and I've not been able to address this problem. However, one day, without announcement on the notice board, we find that Janet and Carol are in after about 5 months. Stella says, they've accepted my rent money. And I go, oh, that's it, cleared up now. We'll approach Carol. And when I approached Carol, it was one snidey damn remark after another as I'm trying to give her my rent money. And it came to the point where I went, I can't be talked to like that anymore. I haven't done anything wrong. I haven't done a damn thing. And yes, it got out of hand. But that's the story.
Well, I still don't follow. Why are you paying somebody else's rent?
Because they're not here.
Exactly. So what's the problem about paying it in advance, as you should be doing?
I don't know about advance.
It's by the
Nobody has done anything
No, that's
wrong.
the last day you pay, not the first day. No, it's not.
No,
it is not. It's in the rules, and it's been in the rules since I've been in this plot.
No.
Yes,
Nobody
it
was
has.
doing any harm.
Excuse me, the rules were on the notice board all of
Nobody was doing any harm. We were just trying to pay rent. Nobody was doing any harm. I haven't done any harm.
Exactly. And plus the fact that Stella's plot had about 2 square feet of ground up over on the...
Her rent has been accepted.
Because
Her rent has been
I spoke
accepted.
to Stella, and somebody else's plot money's got nothing to do with the individual plot holders. It's to do with the individual herself that's got the plot. Now I already spoke to Stella on the phone regarding her plot, and I says, you better get your bum down and get some work done. Didn't I?
And she's got some work done.
She came down. So you paying Stella's rent and us refusing.
I'm not paying it. She gave me the money and I'm passing it to her.
That's got nothing to do with you not paying yours. And now
you put me in a compromising situation.
No, not
you put me in a compromising.
The three of you.
The three of you did. The three of you put me in a compromising situation. What am I supposed to do? I'm not doing any harm.
You aren't supposed to be paying somebody else's rent. The whole point is,
I'm doing somebody a favour who can't be here. That's not the crime of the century, please.
No.
It's hardly the crime of the century.
You can send me a cheque then.
Right. Can you explain?
We've got the cheque here, we don't know who to make it out to.
We need the details.
We need the details before we make out the cheque.
You're talking about to send me a letter, so you obviously knew my address.
We know.
Do you not accept criticism?
I don't know.
Not the shouting.
Excuse me, but
the shouting ball obviously that much. You exaggerated that.
We're all open to criticism.
You are the people that are at fault.
We are all open to criticism.
You're the people who are...
money, that's our fault.
Yes,
It's not a fault.
because you are not paying, you should not be paying for somebody else.
You're
And we had
picking on
agreed...
Stella, now you want to pick on me.
No, we have...
And I don't accept
Picking
it.
on.
Picking on.
This is an allotment. We
Picking
have
on for
rules
trying
that
to
you
pay
do.
rent.
Yeah, but that's the whole
Picking on
point.
for trying to pay rent, for goodness sake.
But will you try and
That's
listen?
ridiculous.
You don't
It's
pay rent for plots that you're not working if
ridiculous.
you're not accepting that as a rule.
So who does their cheque get made out to then?
Excuse me.
Bellahouston.
Can you sit down, please?
I'm just using the table to write a cheque, aren't I? For the rent money.
I'm fed up with this.
This will get it sorted.
How will it get sorted? That used to be too.
We're going to abuse, and you exaggerated a lot. You exaggerated a lot and lied as well.
No, I don't lie. The letter was full of lies, right enough.
No, we can read it out.
Last October,
I wish you would.
about 4 people went round and looked at Stella's plot. There was about 2 square feet dug in it. And we had agreed at the AGM that we were not accepting rent money for plots that hadn't been done. And that is why I refused to take the money and said to other people, that is why we refused to take the money for that plot. Are you quite clear on that? Are you quite clear on that?
Are you quite clear that we knew Stella had been working the plot?
She hadn't been. There's about 2 square feet of ground done. We had given her about 7 or 8 letters during the year about the mess of the place.
That's a lie.
No, it's a lie.
I never get 7 or 8.
I've sent Ashley the one time about not come up. When you had your hand, you done your hand, and then you done your back. Again, this is
I'm not sure what the account name is. It's probably Plot Holders Association.
Right.
Well, you can't take rent for the plot to work and done. It's impossible.
But that's our attitude. They take my rent and ask me to next.
Yeah, exactly. That's the very point.
There's obviously a lot of anger on all sides, right? Everyone's had a chance to vent themselves, so we're going to get nowhere, or rather we're going to be sat here for hours if everyone carries on chatting. So let's stop for a moment and let's deal with these issues one at a time. Stella's plot. Stella's now paid, yes, that's what you said. And are we happy enough that Stella's now working her plot at where we are now? Where we are now. Okay. So, what can we agree as far as Stella's plot goes and the issue of Stella's plot, accepting that June's upset, Janet's upset, about some of the issues raised in the letter, and there's upset on the other side as well that has led to the letter. Accepting all that. Stella's situation now is we're happy enough she's working the plot and she's paid, yes? Yeah. Okay, and as far as June goes, we have an outstanding sum of money. Is that right, June? That June still owes for the plot, is that right?
And John.
June and John still owe for their plots. Is there an issue with them working their plots? So the plot's being worked?
No.
There's not an issue, there's just an issue of outstanding money?
No, they haven't been working the plots.
They haven't been working?
No. They've started now. I mean, this is the first year I've actually seen that.
Okay.
John's plot actually been fully dug.
Okay. So what's the position as far as the committee and June and John? Are we happy for them carrying working their plots? Is there an issue here as far as them working the plots?
If they keep the plots tidy and clean,
from here forward, yes? And do we have agreement that that's going to happen? Forgetting what's been done in the past, going forward.
The shovel's there, the weather's beautiful. We're ready to dig.
Don't be holding any more rubbish on, something like that.
We've got the right money here.
Jenny, okay, step back. What is it? We can ask for an apology. Is there more that you would like to see happen?
I want to show you the letter so you can...
Okay, we'll have an opportunity to see the letter.
Well, I'll bring the letter in. No, you were actually asking about a meeting.
Right.
See what I mean?
Can I offer you the cheque then?
Yeah.
I've got that wee out thing there. Is any other? I've got another copy there if that's not good enough.
No, that'll be fine.
Right. Thanks very much.
Anything else?
Oh, sorry, a receipt for the cheque.
See,
you get a receipt for the cheque?
These meetings they're getting less and less every year, and they're 18 years this year again, so you can write them.
Well, can I say that we had the most utter rubbish said at the AGM. I didn't know we could come to meetings. Remember that? At the AGM?
No, it lasted 5 minutes at your AGM because it was talking a lot of rubbish. That's why I walked away.
People said that they didn't know they were supposed to come to meetings, that they weren't allowed to come to meetings. That's what was said by about 5 or 6 people at the AGM, right? I didn't know we could come.
I was told people... Again,
that is on the minutes that members should come to meetings to raise issues.
I came to a meeting. I came to... Archie, can I please... Archie, can I... Archie, I wanted to come along to a meeting when I first joined, maybe in the first year. I came along and I was turned away as committee members only.
Yeah.
and that happened, and that was Janet who said that to me. And I had a major issue at the time that I'd been stolen from my plot, and I was told, I mean, Archie was here as well, and it was just committee members only. And I had actually asked the committee member, can I come along, because I had something to, you know, something to share, and I was turned away. And that's, I was one of the people that meet at the AGM who said we didn't know we were allowed to come because we were turned away. I was turned away.
Well, I'm sorry about that, but
There are two sets of meetings, don't they? They have committee meetings and they have general meetings.
Yeah, and literally one, you know, where people, you know, members of the allotments come along and, you know, share.
Well, can we say at the moment people have turned up here, right? The next meeting should be in a month's time, first Sunday, right?
Is that a committee meeting?
That's a committee meeting.
No,
Can we just agree that we have
general
you can have it. You can have it. I mean, I've been to meetings where there's two halves. There's a committee, you know, you have a meeting where the members come along and share any issues that they have, and that's maybe in the first half an hour, and the next half an hour is just the committee members. That's the way it should be. That's the way it should be.
Well, I've been told meetings and some of the meetings in here are committee only. You can't go to it.
It shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way. It should be
only for committee members.
Well, we're clear enough going forward that when we meet on the first Sunday of every month, it's for everyone to come along. Yeah, we're all clear. Yeah, no point arguing the past again because we're going to get let's try and move forward from where we are. Okay, so we all know everyone who's here, anyone else who's interested who isn't here today can be told if they ask. They're welcome to come along, and we'll put a notice up for each meeting saying all members welcome.
I mean, you don't have to come. I mean, the way these things work is if you've got something you want to raise, that's when you come, right? You know, so that, you know, if you want to be out working your plot and you've not really got anything that you want to say, well, you don't need to come. The point is that they are open for that.
And there's some things, obviously, that only the committee members discuss. We don't need to, you know, the members don't need to be present. That's just, you know, just for the, you know, for the committee members.
If you look at the way the meetings are working, we checking the money, we check for bills. Quite often it's, you know, if there's been break-ins, we do that sort of thing, you know, go through that, see what we can do. And then it's usually just on to any other business. So any other business usually takes up most of the time.
And the other thing I personally have an issue with as well is I know you had the AGM, was it October, and then there was another meeting in November, and then we seem to have no meeting in December, January, February, March. I personally think it's only... somebody should be here. You know, for example, the people who wanted to pay their rent, who didn't get an opportunity to, or something may have happened on the plot. There should be someone here at least once a month on the first of you know, the Sunday. Even if it's just for an hour, it may be snowing, it may be cold. You know, you don't need to come along. It just needs to be one committee member, so someone can go to them and say, well, this has happened to my plot. The fact there wasn't, you know, this things have built up. People can't discuss it. I think this is one of the reasons there's a lot of friction here as well. I mean, somebody, you know, committee member was present. Some of the stuff would have been dealt with.
Most plots don't have meetings in the winter months, I must admit. I mean, I've been in 4 or 5 different plot areas.
In the winter anyway.
You know,
I cat myself.
I think the problems will be cleared up this year because if people come along, if members come along to the meetings again, everybody's quite clear regarding paying rent.
I know, but it's not just about paying rent. It's about sometimes things happen, you know, other people come along, still work their plots. Something happens, you know, there may not be a plot, you know, a committee member around. On one of the days, there needs to be a committee member. People can go and say, things happen on a, you know, things happen every day. And if there's a committee, you know, you need to be kept informed about what's happening. A committee member needs to be kept informed.
I mean, there's not a system like people have somebody's number, or there's a number of maybe like 3 or 4 of the committee members' numbers
to report it
by phone. By phone.
See, but I think that the danger there is the committee members are just going to get phone calls all the time. That's why the first Sunday of every month, just come along just for the 1 hour, 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. That's all. What is that?
Right. Well, can I say that what you were saying, what I said earlier on, you bring that up. That's your idea for the AGM, and it'll be voted on then. I would imagine it'll be favourable at that point. But it's not. It doesn't matter for the moment because we've got meetings all the way through the summer anyway. So that should be okay, and that's when that should be brought up, and we'll try and do it then. But that's what I'm saying. It gives people a chance to think about that as being, you know, how would be the best way of working that. because sometimes it's pouring a rain and somebody's going to trek all the way up here and it's and there'll actually not be anybody here, you know. But yeah, I can see it's a sensible sort of idea, so we'll certainly will add that to the thing. Right?
Well, I'm not parents going to want that anyway, the Saturday anyway.
Right.
Better seldom see anybody here. We can walk around checking the place, any break-ins, anything. I'm
Well,
not
Well, I came every Sunday first of the
and I
month.
don't see anybody up here.
Well, you know, there's at least 4 people around still working. I mean, obviously, you know, you were one of them, but there are some people about. I mean, you're not going to expect everybody here, but there will be some individuals. And again, people know.
Very few actually up here know what to work in the plots.
Well, I think
anyway,
I think Alan's point is a good one, that this can wait until we can decide on this at the next meeting. Really, we're discussing something for the future. We're going to have
to think about it. See, I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad idea. We might be a bit better way of working.
The point seems to be just to have a point of liaison over the winter for people that they don't seem to have. We seem to have miscommunication between committee members being here and people wanting to see committee members at different times, however you look at it, whichever way round, either because as committee members we're not here or because the plot holders are not here. If we have an agreed time once a month when at least one committee member doesn't need to be here, is going to be here, that may solve that. But we can discuss that, as we said, later, so that's not a thing.
Alan, I meant to ask you something. Example here, we got some time, you know, people broken up, you know, inside of them, losing everything, you know, like tool or something, which, you know, sometimes, I mean, people go off your tool on the body, you know, they go £100 but is there a chance to get an insurance, a general insurance for all the plot over here? No? No, even if it's no insurance. Well, to a certain, no, I mean, up to a certain limit, I mean, you're not asking insurance for thousands.
You're not getting any insurance claims here.
You know,
never be out.
You're not getting any money.
Did somebody try or?
No one you talk to your husband.
Quite really, Carol.
Just so that everybody's clear, we do have
Even for the tools,
gardens, public liability insurance.
Public liability insurance.
Yeah?
Yes, we do have that.
Public liability
Carol just to tell
insurance.
me.
It's not, that's for people.
Members of the public.
Members of the public.
Maybe have an accident in their allotments or something like that.
So we don't all get sued. That's the point. I mean, that is covers up.
Member of the public.
Yeah.
Member of the public, the only
like the whole of it, so cheer for that. We come to open the day of that. We'll cheer for that, but for nothing else.
Another thing I did want to bring up, just but it may be something for the future, and is composting toilets. The possibility that might be something we could look to do. I will see if I can see if there's any sort of funding available, but they can be done quite simply. Without a lot of cost involved. I haven't brought anything down with me today, but because I've had a look at, there's all sorts of different ways of doing it, but some of the allotments that have done them quite simply and without a lot of cost involved. Again, it would maybe be a case of asking who would be prepared to, you know, be involved in building them, but material-wise, we could maybe look to do open day money.
Yeah, I was going to do that.
What needs a hut?
Well,
that's the main thing.
Actually, I've seen a design for one that actually doesn't even involve a wooden hut. It basically involves a wooden structure, and do you know the frosted plastic?
Yeah.
And the base is actually done in breeze blocks.
That's right. You have to have that.
And
that's right.
to me, that would keep the costs.
Well, that's very cheap breeze block. Doesn't cost much.
But
down over here where there is
we can look at different ideas and different
water is over there. It's just over there. Don't know.
Is that something we're interested in? What Carol said, we're interested in the idea of having a toilet over here.
About a year and a half ago.
They've
been bringing that up here for years and years and years, buying toilets and it's never happened.
Toilets, it does a must.
So if I get...
It's hygienic, we must have them. I think we should have them.
But if you've got some ideas, Carol, will you be able to bring them at the next meeting? And we can discuss it at the next meeting. That's something we can talk about then, yeah?
I would have done it, I would have printed it. But I've had a
you can do that for the next one, yeah?
If anything else has got access to internet, if you just look under
composting
toilets and allotments, give me your feedback.
Carol, I said, well, McNee look at the drawings for that other one. I said, look at the drawings. Alan McNee. I said, Alan look at the drawings.
I did ask Alan during the week, but he doesn't have them now. But Alan's were sort of built based on building it on a hill, which is maybe not practical in here. No. But there's other ones that are quite simple, and you can do them on the level.
But the place was seen up there. We've got a good enough place for it.
But there's probably people here who've got access to the internet. They could have a wee look and see what they think as well, just on what would be practical for us to do. And if we were doing that, somebody had said possibly the area beside the container that's not been used.
Well, that was where we were saying we might dump, you know, if people are bringing stuff in. That was where we were going to lay it.
Well, we need an area. We need an area front too, aren't we? We need an area where something needs. No, that's not an excuse for everyone to put their stuff there, but we need to clear that front. That's what we just said. So we need to clear that to somewhere just for that.
Because we couldn't get anything in there.
Well, I mean,
we needed to.
Did we not say that if anybody's toilet somewhere though, here already?
Yeah, that's behind someone's property.
Yeah,
it's not fair. It's not fair to that person.
No, that's not.
Right, you were going to.
Yes. We didn't make it to the AGM, as you know, obviously. We weren't here. It's been my understanding, as you know, Alan, Michael and I were on the committee at one point, that at that time people all paid their rent at the AGM. That was the time that people paid their rent. Now, I personally haven't been aware of any change in that, so Michael and I assumed that the rent was due on the AGM, and because we weren't going to physically be here because we were in England at the time, I asked June to pay the rent for me. Now, we've already covered, I'm not going to get into what's already been covered because there's no point in that. However, what happened was we were told, the feedback that I was given is that I had to speak to Alan before I could pay the rent for the plot. Right. Now, I've attempted to do that on a few occasions. Well, on 2 occasions I wrote 2 letters with my address, phone number, mobile number, and asked Alan in the letter, and I was told by Carol that this did actually get passed because I didn't have your personal address. So I had to send it via the Secretary, obviously, Janet, which I did. I had absolutely no feedback on this whatsoever from any member of the committee. Right, so nobody, my point is absolutely nobody spoke to myself and Michael about this from the AGM onwards. What had basically happened after that is that we came along to the following meeting, but the meetings used to be at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and this, then I learned it was now 1 o'clock. So we came along about maybe 2 or 2:30, expecting it to be later. We came along the following month, which was the first Sunday in September. So that's when we met David and spoke to Carol, and Carol said that letters were going to be issued, etc., and she explained what had been discussed at the meeting previously. So we expected a letter. But we had been in and started working the plot anyway because I'd spoken to Janet about it prior to the AGM. So anyway, we were then told come back the following there would be a meeting the first Sunday in, so that was the August, September, October, the first Sunday in October. Well, we turned up for that and we were told to come and also to consider plot sharing, and there were other issues that I discussed with Carol and David, and that was fine. So we turned up for the meeting with our rent. So did June and John. They had their rent there, cash to pay, and there was no meeting. We saw Archie, we saw David, and we saw this man here.
I won't take rent anyway.
And he didn't have any receipt book, and there was nobody there who could take the rent. So we were asked to come the first Sunday the following month, which we did with our rent. So did John, so did June, and again there was nothing. There was nobody here, and basically, personally, I don't find that acceptable. You know, we turned up and paid the rent. They had the rent. I'm witness to that they actually did turn up with the rent in cash. David is witness to it. He was the one that we ended up seeing because he was here the first Sunday.
Well, I think in retrospect, Stella, that's where the mistake was made, and I'm sure the guys will probably, because basically all it required was a piece of paper. And so, right. So I think we've kind of gone over this. We've kind of gone over this point that's what's caused a lot.
The issue is not so much. it's not so much the money, it's the plots being worked. And as we've said, the plots are now being worked, so we are happy, right? So there's no, right? At the point of the AGM, which was October, and we don't have meetings after that one at the moment.
Well, there was one in November, we were told there was one.
Well, Carol and myself and
there was a few people
of us were here for the November, the first one in November, but anyway.
But the point is, right, we're happy now, you're working the plot, and that's all we ever were looking for, right? But we were not happy to go down the road of just continually accepting money from people who are not working their plot. And that was at the point of the AGM, that's why we wanted to see you, because at that point we had gone round, Archie, myself and a couple of other people had gone round all the plots and we'd said, right, if these people are here, we are going to have a word with them before we take their plot money, and that was one of the things.
See, that's my point that I'm trying to make just now. I attempted to contact you to discuss it with you, and you just didn't. You didn't contact me. There was no communication at all. And I think a lack of communication causes problems, as we can see today, because things have erupted and happened, and people have got angry because the communication hasn't been good. And I also brought a doctor's letter. You know, I'd spoken to Carol, I'd spoken to Janet, but I was told I was to speak to you. So Carol did explain the situation, and she did say, you know, I will be sending letters out. I'm not saying there wasn't any communication with Carol, and I did have some communication with Janet, but the letter, I was told I was to speak to you about it, and I couldn't pay the rent. It wasn't I couldn't pay the rent till I'd spoken to Carol or Janet.
Right.
It was yourself
well, I mean,
specifically.
That's just one, that is part of the thing that happens when, you know, we don't have the meetings after the AGM, right? So
it's a good reason maybe to go down that road.
But there was one other thing that we raised, brought up. It was an idea of mine we brought up at the AGM. We discussed it in meetings and things beforehand. Was that the plot rents were going to, when they went up, they would go up by maybe a £5, and then they would stay the same for at least 2 years, and maybe probably 3 years before going up, so people would have a good idea what they had to pay. And because of that, you know, so people now know today what the rent will be next year. And so because of that, we can get the money in early. Up until that situation, what happened was people quite often decided what the rents were going to be at the AGM. So people obviously couldn't pay it in advance. I mean, and I've always felt that's a daft thing, because you're asking people to turn up on the last day, perhaps if there's a meeting. Somebody's got to gather all the money in one day. If people are not there or whatever, what we've now got as a situation is, if you want to, you can pay your rent, you know, as long as you're working it. We're not accepting the fact that just because you pay it, you can just leave the plot as it is without working it. But it's, you now know how much it is going to be. It's the same this year as next year, so you know what it's going to be.
Well, could I make
so you don't have to be.
Could I make a suggestion then? Could you put a notice up to let people know if they're required to pay their money early? Because I haven't ever heard of that. I thought it was due. I did think it was due in August, and I phoned Janet about it, and I said to her, is it time for me to send you a cheque for the plot? And she said, no, just wait. So Janet actually said to me, no, wait till the AGM, because in my mind the AGM should have been in August, although sometimes it ran late. Would it not be a better idea to say that the rent's due from August, or have the AGM as it used to be in August, and that gives people a couple of months?
What we can do still is stick to the AGM in October, but we can put up a notice in August on the notice board reminding everyone that rents are due by the AGM in October.
And we did that. I've already done that. Yeah, we had that last year.
That's it. But that's it.
Everybody who read that board knew that. All the people who paid the rent at the AGM knew that.
Okay, that is not an issue. Yeah, but it's not moving forward now rather than...
We'll make sure it's done this year. This year there will be a notice up. Everyone will know the rent's due before or by the AGM.
You happy with that, Sal?
Yeah.
Right. Any other I think people are restless to get out and do some work. Any other points?
Hold on, see that thing you're talking about there, she was talking about there. We were doing to check the plots, there were 17 plots still being worked.
Aye, on that day. Aye, I know.
17 plots here.
That's why we were a bit...
Really?
But there's
So
not
actually, again, so the same rules should apply to everybody, not
there's
just
not
selected
17
people.
plots now.
There's no 17 plots now, they can be well cleaned up and tidy.
So that's the better news. And the people that have taken up these bits up there, that's going to look a bit better as well. So all in all, I think it's a bit more positive this year than last, and last year was a wee bit more positive than the year before in terms of the plots. So it's looking better.
And if people is not well, and they can't work the plot that year, we're not going to take a plot off from. But we could get somebody off the waiting list to work that plot that year for them. And that'll let us see who was taken in to work plots, or they picked to give a plot to or not. Mm-hmm. We're not taking a plot when we're sick. If we can get people in to work for them that year. And that gives somebody up the list for a year. And they can keep the plot tidy instead of...
Well, these are that prime example, David.
Right, we finished all.
Have
they finished that?
Yeah.
Right.